This is Shelley Kraft coming to you live on SNNLive. We're at the New Orleans Investment Conference 2016. I have with me Curtis Moore from Energy Fuels. It's a publicly traded company. It's listed on two exchanges. The first one is UUUU on the NYSE Market, and it's also on the Toronto Stock Exchange under EFR. Curtis, welcome to SNNLive.
Thank you, Shelley. It's nice to talk to you.
It's good to have you. Let's tell the audience a brief overview of the company, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. Well, again, thank you for having me here. Energy Fuels is a major producer of uranium in the United States. The United States, of course, is the world's leading nuclear market, and so we believe that being a producer of uranium in the United States is very strategic. We have both in situ production, we have also conventional production. We have the only conventional uranium mill in the United States. We have production from an in situ facility up in Wyoming ongoing right now, and we also have a facility in Texas that's on standby. We're going to produce about 1 million pounds of uranium this year, most of it sold into long-term contracts at prices that are quite a bit above today's uranium spot price. And we have a lot of room to grow. We can significantly increase production when uranium markets come back, and we do think that uranium markets are going to come back fairly quickly.
You know, you used the word before, strategic. It hit me. You're strategic in so many ways, both politically, locally, government-wise. Tell me a little bit more about what you meant by strategic.
Definitely. Well, when it comes to nuclear energy, it is a major part of the energy that we produce in the United States. We get about 20% of our electricity from nuclear. It is by far our best source of clean energy. It produces about 63% of the emission-free and carbon-free energy that we have in the United States, and there's only one mill left in the United States. We used to have about 20 or 30 uranium mills in the United States back in the heyday. U.S. in the 70s produced, I believe it was 40 or 45 million pounds per year. And so we believe that having the last mill in the United States is extremely important. We, again, if somebody has conventional ore that they need to process in the U.S., they have to come to us.
Now, the price of uranium, the last time I checked, was on the low end, according to, the high price and the very low price. It's kind of on the low end. Explain how that affects your bottom line.
Sure. Well, and you're correct. The price of uranium right now is very low. It's certainly at a 12 or a 13-year low on an inflation-adjusted basis. In fact, it's not too far off of all-time lows. I don't think this is going to last. I think we're seeing a few sellers out there that are just needing to raise cash. It's a very illiquid market. When you're talking about the spot market, the truth is that there's not unlimited amounts of uranium available out there at today's prices. So I think that's one of the things that's going to create this base that we're in right now. Once these utilities come into the market, and they do have large uncovered requirements starting at about 2020, 2021 and beyond, I think that's going to really start the price coming back. And they're going to come into the market well before that time to actually secure that. So I think we're going to see a recovery.
Right, because they buy it by the year, right? They don't even know sometimes what their own demand is going to be. So it's like the spot market. They might try to lock it in at these low prices. Now, that's the dilemma. How much do you sell when it finally comes back at these low prices? Am I correct?
Well, when the prices do start to come back, we have the capacity. We have a licensed capacity to actually produce about 11.5 million pounds per year. I don't think that there's any other company that has the ability to scale up like we do. We are going to do about 1 million pounds this year, but we have this capacity to do 11.5 million pounds. Now, I think realistically we could probably do 6 or 7 million pounds in a little bit better market. We also don't need huge prices to bring that kind of production into play. There are several projects around the world that probably need $65, $75, $85 uranium. Once we see prices getting into the 30s or 40s, we'll be able to ramp up.
So looking forward a little bit, tell me what you can. Where do you see Energy Fuels headed over the course of the next 12 to 18 months? Right. And what would make you happy as an executive in the company?
Sure. So, Energy Fuels, we're executing our business plan right now. We're producing at relatively modest levels. We're delivering into our contracts that we have with global nuclear utilities. One thing that I haven't even mentioned is that at our Canyon mine in northern Arizona, we are actually discovering some extraordinarily high-grade copper. We're seeking additional sources of revenues, whether it's through our alternate feed business at our mill, which is basically reprocessing uranium-bearing waste. But this copper discovery is extraordinary. Over about 313 feet of strike length, we found 9% copper, quite a bit of zinc, quite a bit of silver. This is extremely exciting, and we think that we potentially have the capability to produce this at our White Mesa mill. Canyon hopefully will go into production here in the next couple of years and spin off a little bit of cash flow.
What's your method and thesis, and how have you grown the company?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have mainly grown the company through acquisitions. We have done a series of acquisitions as a company over the past 5 years. We are acquiring the best uranium projects in the United States. They're high grade, they're low cost. We're consistently lowering our costs. We just made an acquisition in June of a company called Mustania Uranium. It's in South Texas. It's on about 200,000 acres of land. It's an enormous project with a lot of uranium in it. It's fully permitted. It's fully developed. That's one of the things that people tend to, I think, underestimate and undervalue is fully developed projects and fully permitted projects. There's a lot of wonderful uranium deposits out there, but it takes a long time to permit them. You have to finance them. You have to build them. And a lot of them fail to meet expectations as well, quite frankly.
Let's talk about management. Who do you have surrounding you?
Sure. So our president and CEO is a gentleman by the name of Steve Antony. He's been in the uranium industry for many decades. As I mentioned a minute ago, the uranium industry in the U.S. has a long history. We were the world's largest producer of uranium until the early 1980s. And so there's a lot of expertise that's still out there, and we have a lot of those folks on our management team. Harold Roberts runs our White Mesa mill. Paul Goranson, he runs our ISR facility in Wyoming. He also built Alta Mesa in Texas. Our board consists of also kind of a who's who in the uranium space. We also have a board member with KEPCO. It's a South Korean utility. We have the expertise to execute this business plan.
Let's get your website out there for more information.
All right, thank you, Shelley. It's www.energyfuels.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, Curtis Moore, Energy Fuels, publicly traded company with two symbols, EFR on the Toronto Stock Exchange, UUUU on the NYSE markets. I'm Shelley Kraft. This is SNNLive, and we're coming to you live from New Orleans Investment Conference 2016. Curtis, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Shelley.